That is the hardest part of that ring.
For the hardest part of the ring.
Hello and welcome to episode 112 of Hardest Part of the Ring, the podcast where four friends get together to celebrate the wonder of professional wrestling. My name is Adam and I'm joined by Sam.
Hello.
By John.
Hello.
And by Brett.
Hello. I'm back.
Hooray!
Brett is back.
Hey.
I'd forgotten you weren't here.
Mean.
Did you enjoy All Out, Brett?
I haven't watched it yet.
Oh, Brett. Okay. Did you listen to the podcast?
Yeah.
Oh,
Brett. Brett, I know you couldn't appear on the pod last week for various reasons, but the idea of going back to watch a whole pay-per-view might be tough, but you have to watch the main event. You have to. You really do.
I know. I do want to watch all of it, so I will do.
Okay.
Brett, would you rather get run over with a buggy or a horse?
Yeah, good question.
Run over?
Yeah, if you had to be run over by a buggy or a horse.
Yeah.
Not so run over, just get hit by it.
Okay.
A buggy.
See? Always buggy.
Yeah.
Horses are big and muscly.
Depends on the horse.
A bit like Adam.
Wasn't the answer I was expecting.
I'll take that, John. Please, this is an audio format. Everybody can imagine my rippling muscles. Okay, there you go. A couple of seconds to imagine. So yeah, the last podcast we did was episode 111. It was the review of AEW's All Out, which we all enjoyed. We had a lot of laughs watching that. This episode is the second of our very special new series because this is The Undertaking Volume 2. Sam is the head honcho when it comes to The Undertaking. He has undertaken most of the work in terms of research and prep and getting us all set up and telling us what to watch. And we're going to hand over to him in just a second. Very briefly, though, and I did and ah about whether or not to mention anything at the start of this podcast, and I did run it past the guys, and we just thought there's a lot of talk at the moment on social media that if you're silent, then you're complicit. And I think if you've got a bit of a platform, whether it's a huge social media following or a tiny little podcast like us, then why the hell not take advantage of it a little bit? Obviously, some bad news has been occurring. The main message we just want to give really quickly is obviously Black Lives Matter. And we want to point our listeners towards Riptide Wrestling because they have been sharing and retweeting some great stuff, some great resources, some great educational documents. And also they are saying that if anybody donates to any of the wonderful funds that are helping people over in the States and people over here as well, then they will if you send them a receipt of your donation, they will send you a sticker. We retweeted that on the Hardest Part Pod Twitter earlier on. So if you go and have a look, you can help a very worthy and important cause. And that's what we wanted to say. Anyway, let's move on from that and let's focus on what we are always here to do week in, week out, apart from the weeks we take off. We're going to talk about wrestling, and I'm going to hand over to Sam Andrews. What are we doing?
It is The Undertaking. What is The Undertaking, I hear you asking?
What is The Undertaking,
sorry.
Sam?
There we go.
What is The Undertaking, Sam?
I was having a drink, sorry.
No, that's fine, Adam. You sit there and be a guest. I'll host.
Thanks, mate.
The Undertaking is a retrospective review of the pay-per-view events that The Undertaker's participated in. Following his career from 1990 to 2020, it provides a snapshot of the wrestling landscape at the time. So, previously on The Undertaking, we began with Taker's first two pay-per-view matches for WWF, those being Survivor Series 1990 and Royal Rumble 91. And they're decent. If you fancy checking those out, episode 110 for you is what you want. For Hardest Part of the Rings review, not the actual matches themselves, which took place at the aforementioned pay-per-view Survivor Series and Royal Rumble. This week, we are looking at matches 3, 4, and 5, and we start with WrestleMania VII.
Oh, Now, I wonder if when the listeners who are going to hear a lot of these Undertaking episodes, when they hear that an episode is going to feature 3 matches, is that good? Or does that mean that it's just 3 squashes? They're going to have to keep listening to find out.
It's going to be a mystery to all of us, including the people making it. We just don't know. WrestleMania VII, unsurprisingly the 7th edition of the event, and taking place from the Los Angeles Memorial Sports Arena on March 24th, 1991.
His opponent, led towards the ring by Paul Bearer from Kent, Philly, weighing 328 pounds, The Undertaker. Undertaker causing a lot of sleepless nights for a whole lot of folks here in the World Wrestling Federation, and Paul Bearer has his iron with him.
So, around this time, Gulf War still fueling all of WWF storylines, complete with star-spangled commentary from Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Iraqi sympathiser Sergeant Slaughter, and there was even a bomb threat which changed the venue, which I had no idea about. Yeah, so lots of fans were upset about Sergeant Slaughter's betrayal, and kayfabe very clearly still alive back in 91. And there were bomb threats to the arena, so they had to change the venue for WrestleMania.
I think they were also concerned about snipers as well. I think there was a lot of threats on his life.
Yeah, that's some real heel heat there, aligning yourself with an enemy country.
I hope WWE goes back and watches this. Maybe they get some ideas.
There's a checklist somewhere, and it's like just kind of ways to be a heel. Be boring, align yourself with Saddam Hussein. Anyway, Middle East. On the subject of things that would span 20 years, though, this is also notable as the beginning of the streak.
Yes. I noticed that on the network.
Yes, me too, yeah.
Yeah, the chapter thing. What did it say? It was like beginning of the streak or something.
Yeah, it didn't even the match title or who it was against. It was just beginning of the streak.
But obviously, it wasn't referred to that at the time because they didn't even realise, did they? They had no idea what they had on their hands until about, 10 years into it.
Of course, yeah. So, kind of wild that. But, I mean, so Taker, this is the first time he'll be accompanied by Paul Bearer in WWF.
Oh, so good to see as well. I love Paul Bearer.
Amazing. Yeah. He is the money behind that duo, in my opinion. And he in WrestleMania 7, he's taking on notable murderer Jimmy Superfly Snuka.
So hench.
Alleged.
My God, he looked amazing,
didn't he? Still alleged?
Is it alleged? I think it is, isn't it? Because they didn't go to trial because of
still alleged.
Apparently him being mental, and now he's dead.
He died.
Okay. Let's talk about a snooker that's not Tamina. So, Undertaker versus Jimmy Superfly Snuka. It's a 5-minute match. What do you guys think?
Just like what Adam was saying, Jimmy Snuka was hench as. Like, he looked amazing. He was like in his late
He-Man,
40s.
didn't he? The body of a He-Man.
Yeah, he looked like an action
one of the
figure.
Masters of the Universe.
Yeah.
One of the figures, definitely.
Never seen a physique
Probably
like
based
it.
on him.
He's so tall as well. Like, he was...
That threw me, yeah.
I was amazed. The match itself, I don't remember him getting any offense in on Undertaker whatsoever.
I think he got like a headbutt in.
Yeah, he did.
But it had no effect. Obviously.
Also, Snuka started in the ring like a proper jobber. No entrance, straight in the ring.
That's very true, actually.
Yeah, I didn't even clock that.
Some people say he didn't pay for his crimes. Maybe maybe we cut that bit out.
Nope.
So obviously quite the one-sided 5-minute match this. There was some... I think this is kind of very interesting for Undertaker in that you begin to see a lot of the foundations that made him such an interesting wrestler. He starts bringing quite a few new moves to the table here. We've got kind of the walk in the ropes and the big elbow drop that he starts doing.
Yeah, I agree. It's nice to see
moves.
him in a singles match after last time seeing him in all these multi-man matches where he can't really do an awful lot necessarily to actually do some like the diving clothesline he did.
I love it.
He gets so much air.
It was a bit sketchy in this first match though. It was perfected in the next one, wasn't it? Because
for sure.
I love this is one of like my favourite moves of his, and something that like sort of Naito does now. but it's like it's the springing off the ropes. So you're running the ropes, and then they use the ropes to like launch themselves.
Yeah.
Whereas this one, he sort of came off the ropes and then just jumped really high.
Absolutely. I like as well, there was a point where Snooker was kind of making a beeline for Taker. He ducked down and Snooker just went flying over the top rope.
Oh, yeah, that looks so cool. He sort of hung himself on the rope, but then like just let himself tumble out. That was pretty sweet.
Yeah, good selling.
It's funny, actually, because kind of perhaps in reference to volume 84 of The Undertaking in the future, Snooker obviously kind of jumps off top rope. Taker's meant to catch him, turn it into a tombstone pile driver, and the spot itself doesn't quite go to plan. And Taker decides to put him down and then pick him back up after kind of a bit of a beatdown. And it was just like, where was that mindset when you were fighting Roman Reigns at WrestleMania?
Oh my God, I can't wait to talk about that. Yeah, that was funny because Snooker does the slingshot with barely any sling. He basically stands on top of the ropes for a split second and then sort of just falls forward. So, it was awkward. And I did like the way Taker just puts him down, punches him, picks him up again. But then, obviously, we got the tombstone and he did it to the hard camera.
Yeah.
At last, he's learning. He's learning what he's meant to do.
I thought Taker looked like a dominant presence in this match. I thought it was the Undertaker I remember.
Yeah, it must have been quite a big win for him back then. Because, I mean, he's obviously not at his height, Jimmy Snooker, but he's still a big name in wrestling at this time. For the Undertaker to go over so quickly, so clean, it's probably quite a big result.
Yeah, for sure.
I guess, but like the trajectory of him in what we're going to talk about just in this episode was obviously quite, straight up, straight away.
Yeah,
which
absolutely.
I didn't really realise. And I guess I thought this was mad because it's like WrestleMania, but even back then, squash match in a few minutes. Sort of like, why did they put this in there? But,
with the foresight of 30 years of wrestling from The Undertaker.
Yeah. But do you know what I mean? It's like we have those matches now and you're like, why did they they could have trimmed down the time? But, they've been doing it since time immemorial.
Yeah.
Does this kind of give you hope for the Baron Corbins of the world?
I'd say yes, but you're seeing what we've seen in just a few matches, Taker expanding his moveset.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very true. Actually.
Which we don't see these days, and whether that's because they're just touring way too much and don't get the chance to, train as much or learn new bits, so they're just stuck, or whether it's the WWE way now of you've got these moves, that's it.
I would say I feel like his moveset regresses in the next two matches, though.
Yeah.
I feel like the next two matches are a lot more limiting. Like this, the one at least with Snooker, I feel like you see a lot more variety of what the stuff he's doing. And the ones against the Hulkster, I feel like it's just...
I feel like this match against Snooker, he came out hot. He knew it was a 5-minute match and he was just going to batter him. Whereas obviously the matches against Hulk Hogan kind of got a little bit more time in them. So
he did, he did do this, the amazing suplex they did when Snooker was on the outside of the ring.
That was good. That was cool.
It was ginormous, wasn't it?
Yeah,
just absolutely launched him. Such a massive guy, as we've referenced already. So that's pretty skillful. But
it's also worth mentioning, obviously, kind of accompanied to the ring by Paul Bearer and the Urn, two major players in the Undertaker's career.
So happy when I saw them. Yeah,
man, Paul Bearer is incredible.
He's so scary.
He is. He's haunting.
Yeah,
it was an awesome look, though, wasn't it? Just straight down, the white painted face.
Yeah.
The
dark
the
eyebrows,
slick black, eyebrows and hair, and just looked amazing.
These guys, they clearly have the character down by this point, because the whole Urn situation, kind of Gorilla Monsoon, who was on commentary, even kind of referencing, when Paul Bearer pulls the urn out and lifts it up, the Undertaker becomes more powerful, and when he shields it away, he becomes weaker. And you're just like, so hold on, is the story here that the Undertaker's mortal body is in the urn?
They did reference that quite a lot. I was like, okay, we do get the idea. But then I'm saying that with the knowledge of his whole career. So I suppose if it was new to you, maybe you needed it. But as a match as a whole, it's not going to go down as a classic, is it, in our memory when we get to the end of this, if we get to the end of this? Because,
I mean, it's a 5-minute squash match. You take what you want from that.
Should we do scores?
Yeah, so obviously we're scoring with The Undertaking. We score both the match and The Undertaker's performance himself. I'm going to go first because I feel bold. I'm going to say the match itself was probably a 1.5 out of 5. We're scoring this out of 5, I want to point out, not 10. Taker himself, though, I would say 2.5. Adam?
I think you're probably right. I think the match itself, hugely forgettable. Maybe I'd still give it a 2, and then I'll give Taker a 2.25. Hey, Meltzer does it.
Drilling it down.
Meltzer does it. I'm allowed.
Brett?
I'm going to go 2 for the match because it was a squash match, but it actually recounting it with you guys, there was a few moments in it that make it more than a 1. They're just not loads to it. Taker himself, I'm gonna go for I'll go 2.5. Still hadn't perfected that tombstone. It still looked a little bit.
They
looked very
poor.
painful.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, we're about to talk about ones that did not look painful at all.
John?
2s across the board from me.
2s and 2s. So the overall match rank for this was a 1.875 out of 5. Taker himself, 2.3125. We don't round in The Undertaking. And so, yes, that kind of brings Undertaker's WrestleMania debut to a close.
Never seen Superfly. Oh, man, how to like this. Look out. Tombstone City. No. It's all over, Brain. I don't believe it. That is Superfly Jimmy Snuka. That's impressive. R.I.P.
So, we're going to move on to the next match shortly. But before that, Adam, do you want to play the jingle?
Yeah. Do you want to undertake a fact?
Yeah.
Always.
You want to hear an interesting
Undertaker
Fact.
Right, guys, a quick Undertaker fact for you, and this is very relevant because the fact that I'm going to tell you actually happened just before the next match we're going to talk about. Because, as Sam may reference, or we may reference just in general, The Undertaker was booked pretty strongly from the end of this WrestleMania all the way up to the Survivor Series 91 and obviously onwards, as we're going to talk about. He was doing so well and people weren't really getting the upper hand against him. But in a match they had in Spain just before, so I think it was in October 1991, the Survivor Series we're going to talk about was in the November. They went out, they did a show in Spain, wasn't on TV, but it was against Tito Santana. Ooh. And basically, Tito Santana's star had faded so much that WWF decided that they wanted to try and attempt to rebuild his star in front of the Spanish audience. And the match that they had basically saw Tito Santana totally beat down The Undertaker. So much so, I mean, it was hugely overbooked, this match. Apparently, Santana escaped The Undertaker's body bag, delivered 3 pile drivers to The Undertaker.
Bloody hell.
And bashed him with the urn and then pinned him to a huge ovation.
Wow.
This match is on YouTube and it is wild.
Oh,
it sounds it. I need to see that.
We're going to have to check it out. But yeah, I just thought that was really fascinating because obviously that's the kind of thing that just would not happen these days with social media and people would be outraged. But the fact that they tried to do that for Tito was quite amusing.
Do you know they rebranded him as El Matador as well?
Yeah, I remember.
I remember El Matador actually. Yeah. And in fact, it was a long time before I then knew that he was Tito Santana. Anyway, that is your kind of relevant Undertaker fact.
You want to hear an interesting
Undertaker
Fact.
That's a good fact, Adam. Thank you, man.
Thanks.
Match 4, Survivor Series 1991 versus Hulk Hogan.
from Death Valley, weighing 328 pounds, The Undertaker. All those little hucksters are going to be wiping their noses and rubbing their eyes because I feel it, Monsoon. The electricity is in this town. The electricity is going all over the world. Hulkamania is going to be put to rest very, very shortly.
So, following WrestleMania, Undertaker would go on to feud with the Ultimate Warrior, culminating in a match at Madison Square Garden, with Taker getting himself disqualified but giving him his first singles defeat. This is kind of interesting because it doesn't really count as a pay-per-view, thus not entering into the Undertaking. He would go on to compete in King of the Ring 1991, again getting himself disqualified against Sid Justice in the quarterfinals.
God, I bet that was a shocker of a match.
Yeah. I could not find that match for love nor money, at least not on the WWE Network. So yes, this brings us heading into November. So he had completed his first year in WWF, having only been defeated by pinfall once at WWF Telecinco Barcelona versus El Matador. And yeah, for the sake of booking and kayfabe, Undertaker was being billed as undefeated, and so it was only a matter of time before he'd be facing up against the most famous wrestler of a generation, Hulk Hogan. And so yes, Survivor Series 1991, the gravest challenge, I'm sure they're never going to use that again, took place at the Joe Louis Arena in Detroit, Michigan, and was notable for being the first Survivor Series to feature a singles match of any kind.
Wow.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Good fact.
That is a good
Thanks.
fact.
Yeah, because it was like really early in the card as well, wasn't it?
That's
or
right,
on the thingy,
yeah.
and I was like, wow, what's this doing so early?
So yeah, he's facing up against the Hulkster. Adam, what do you think?
Well, to start off with, I enjoyed watching the little promo that we had before that focused on the episode of Superstars 2 weeks before. I mean, I don't really know the full storyline, and in fact, maybe I should have researched it, set out some notes that could explain it to our listeners. But the main takeaway from that, and we'll get back to Ric Flair a little later because he does appear in the match, is Ric Flair appearing with a pixelated title belt, which was really weird.
This was super, super strange. So you did do a bit of digging into this. What was the explanation behind it?
Yeah, so well, basically, when Ric Flair originally debuted for WWF, he had the WCW belt, the real WCW belt, but WCW filed a lawsuit, which meant that WWF had to stop using it. So what they did was they gave him a tag belt, and then they pixelated it. So I guess if you were there in the crowd, I mean, I don't know, did you spot anybody pointing and going, "That's the tag belt"? But they basically just whenever he appeared and he had that belt, they pixelated it so they wouldn't get into trouble with WCW. But it kind of worked with the gimmick because it was kind of like saying, you know, it's not an official WWF belt, so we don't want to show it on screen.
Yeah, I thought it was weird just because I thought at the time that it was something they pixelated later down the line, so like recently rather than at the time.
I just thought he had his dick out or something.
Well, that's it. Like, so the first thing I thought was like, there's a lot of ingenuity here for WWF, surprising amount considering the circumstances. But then the other thing was it's Ric Flair. He's probably just doing something really horrible and inappropriate.
It was really weird.
It was strange.
Yeah.
My initial thought was that his gown was so shiny and sparkly that it was like messing up the camera,
Strobing
and it kept
the camera.
glaring, and so they pixelated it a bit more to.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, then I realised that was not the explanation. And
What
I
did you
Googled
think,
it.
Brett? Was it his dick or was it a title belt?
Well, to be honest, right, I was watching and I even rewound a few times because where these guys are going on about this pixelated belt, and I never actually saw them really show the belt full screen. You know, like it was always like I only ever saw it like at an angle, so there was no pixelating, or it was just like the back of Ric Flair most of the time. So I was like, what are they talking about? I must have missed that like few second clip.
They had a promo basically where Flair was talking to Hulk Hogan by a casket, and then Taker comes out, smashes the urn on the back of Hulk Hogan's head, rips off his necklace. What's it called when you have a cross on a necklace?
Oh, his crucifix.
That's the one. Ripped off his crucifix and then dropped it on him. which was a bit weird. And then who turned up? Macho Man and
Yeah, Roddy Piper. I mean, this was a who's who of like people turning up. So you got Paul Bearer hosting the funeral parlor, Ric Flair interrupting Hulk Hogan, Undertaker whacking him with an urn, and then Macho Man and Roddy Piper trying to save the Undertaker. That's kind of that's star-studded right there.
it was great. It was great to see. But yeah, this was all before the match even happened. But one of the main notes I had when The Undertaker made his entrance was quite enjoying seeing all the very scared children that they kept on zooming in on. There was one who was like hugging his mum, refusing to watch. There was another one who looked genuinely worried. There were a couple who were trying to play it cool, but I guarantee they wet the bed that night. It would be quite scary.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, like my younger sister, not like 2 weeks ago, was telling me I had a nightmare about The Undertaker, and I was just like, oh, you're like
Sweet.
29 years old, so shocking.
Any more details?
She's just said she's still scared of him, and then when I said he still wrestles, she was horrified.
Yeah, I mean,
She would be if she watched the match.
Hey-o!
So yes, the match itself, John, what do you think?
I like this match a lot, actually, because it kind of made me think of like when I was a kid playing with wrestling figures. Like this would be the match you'd play out, like the two crazy characters like Undertaker and the Hulkster. Just really enjoyed it. I thought it was fun, especially like the Hulkster no selling a tombstone.
Oh god, that was this one. That really bugged me actually. I don't mind a no sell. Like I love it when Ishii does a no sell or whatnot, but this or even the Undertaker's no sells because they get. But like Hogan, the way he popped up after that, like was just totally burying like this, new guy that they're strapping everything to, and like his killer move, like for so soon to do that.
Oh, that's part of his MO though. It's part of his character.
This is the problem with these undertakings, and in fact some of the rewind episodes we've done, is that I remember when I started work with you guys and hadn't watched any wrestling, and I used to mention like wrestlers I liked as a kid, Ultimate Warrior, and you were like, oh, he's shit. I was like, oh. And then I'm like, oh, and I always liked Hulk Hogan. And I remember Brett in particular being like, no, he's awful. I was like, no. And watching more and more of his matches, I can't bear Hulk Hogan.
Yeah,
there
was some. I'm trying to remember whether, like, because to be honest, both these matches blurred a bit for me, so I'm not.
They
sure
were very similar.
They were, yeah.
Structure,
I did prefer.
similar.
I think I preferred this one, the first one, though, because there was like rest hold stuff. There wasn't like anywhere near as long as it was in the second one.
Yeah,
but like, yeah, there was a moment where like Hogan goes to clothesline him out the ring, and he like barely touches him. Like there's no momentum there, and Taker does all the work getting himself out the ring.
Yeah.
Sort of. Like,
that was really impressive. He lands on his feet, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
Yeah.
it was great work from Taker. All the no selling, or as Brett mentioned in the first episode, the Undertaker, the way he no sells is just great.
Yeah, because he sells it and then no sells it.
Yeah, exactly. He takes the hit
rather than like, I mean, like the tombstone, like the tombstone in this and the next match, like were perfected, but it really seemed like Taker was really conscious of protecting the star, because like it was so safe.
Yeah, it was.
Yes. So I mean, like the thing for me, I really had a dislike of this match, like kind of, and it makes me want to almost go back and watch more Hulk Hogan matches, because am I right in thinking that his entire thing is just get beaten up for 10 minutes?
Yeah, you don't realise it as a kid, but that's all he does. He just takes a beating, then hulks up, big boot, go home.
Yeah.
I mean, that's awful.
It is, but the thing is, like, I'm not totally against the getting a beating, because Bret Hart used to do that as well, but there was always a proper comeback and back and forth. But yeah, this was just like, and it, I think because Hogan is limited, so there's just like lots of those punches being thrown. Yeah. And I can't believe this guy was, and obviously, as a kid, I thought, Hogan was cool and stuff as well. Like, you watch him, he was like this larger than life character. Like, I've still got the bloody music in my head now.
So good, isn't it? Puts such a smile on my face.
It just stays in there.
When you hear it.
But like, that hair, how did he did he have so much confidence and like just
so straight,
be the man with that bald on top and weird, like silky blonde, like the hair wasn't even like hair, it's like super fine.
Yeah, it's weird.
It's just what a look that he managed to get to the top.
I mean, realistically, I think kind of the thing is he was just so charismatic. I mean, the interviews he was giving were really...
Yeah.
Promos
like-
are great.
And
Yeah.
all his faces as well, like in match, when he does Hulk up or when something happens and he turns and he looks at the crowd, like he plays the crowd.
Yeah,
perfectly,
yeah.
Absolutely.
Which, I understand.
I love as well, like I do really like the big boot and the leg drop. I think that's a kind of a real iconic combo of moves that it doesn't matter what match I'm watching. If I ever see like a big boot or a leg drop, I always kind of, I don't know, I just feel like it's a good classic wrestling move.
Yeah, along with a back rake. I love a back rake.
I'll tell you what, Hogan was doing a few eye rakes in
Yeah, he
both of
was.
these matches.
Yeah.
Naughty
And that
boy.
he used to do that a lot, which always is funny because he's the face.
Yeah.
Well, exactly.
He's the ultimate face and he's always cheating with an eye rake. It was just bizarre.
So yes, this kind of match, you see, I just didn't like it that much. I like what they did with the match. Like I like the finish.
Oh, Flair
Yeah.
coming out and
Onto the
Yeah,
chair.
that was cool.
Steel
Yeah.
chair.
that was
Yeah, that was cool. And Paul Bearer playing his part,
Absolutely.
interfering, like he was great.
Bear stalking from the outside. As if the Undertaker wasn't enough to worry about. Got to worry about that guy.
Hulk Hogan hasn't launched much of an offense since he entered that ring, has he? He's been taking a beat.
Oh, look at this. Come on.
Rest in peace, Hulk Hogan.
You piece of garbage.
My monitor went out here. What happened?
Yeah, your monitor went out. Your brain went out.
I was going to say, actually, noticing this match on the back of All Out, so there's a lot of walking the ropes and there's a lot of kind of, I'm going to put my hand on your face and put a claw on there. Is Lance Archer trying to be The Undertaker 30 years ago?
I think, didn't he walk the ropes in the second Hulk Hogan match? Because I made that note. That was the first one we'd seen.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the old
Goodness.
school. I mean, are we? We're on the Undertaker's fourth match, and are you saying they're all blurring into each
I would
other?
say match 4 and match 5 are, if you could describe matches of twins, these two would be twins.
Yes, incredibly similar. And
Yeah.
I mean, Sam will obviously give details of what the third match is in a minute, in terms of the fact that it happened like a few days later, didn't it?
Indeed, it did. So before we move on to the next match, shall we rate this one?
yes.
Yes.
So Brett, you sound really hot on this one. What do you think?
So the match, actually, I'm going to give this match a 3.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I'm going to give Taker a 3 on it as well.
solid. John, what do you think?
I'm also going to give the match 3, but I'm going to give Taker 2.5.
Ooh, I really enjoyed this.
Yeah,
actually.
I like this match a lot.
Because it was like it was a really cool wrestling match in the sense that it had all of the lots of different elements. We had Paul Bearer with his interference. We had Paul Bearer rubbing his nose on the urn. we had Bobby Heenan saying, "You know why that woman's on the edge of her seat? She's got a 300-pound can behind her."
What does that even mean?
I think that's it, talking about her ass.
Oh, okay.
We
Yeah,
had
it literally, my brain cogs were ticking for a few seconds trying to work that one out, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah.
yeah.
Just quickly, whilst you brought them up as well, I do want to say I love Bobby Heenan and Gorilla Monsoon's attack as a commentary
Best
team.
best ones.
so good. They really add to it. And like I say, with all the stuff that's going on, the fact that it's such a clear divide between the heel and the face commentator, or
Absolutely.
and one thing we haven't mentioned, or we kind of referred to it, but it's, I mean, yeah, you said he was keeping safe, but oh my god! So Flair brings out the chair, puts it underneath so that Taker can do the tombstone, and the fact that the camera angle just means you can see there was about a foot between the chair and what happened and where Flair was. He didn't even touch anywhere near the ground, and then he sort of flops over in front of the chair.
Yeah.
Got to get a different angle for that if you're going to do it that safe.
The fact that he manages to do it so safe, like so safe like that as well, though, with Hogan, like, who's a giant.
Yeah, but Hogan's having words with him before the match saying, "You ain't putting me anywhere near that chair, brother."
Oh, yeah, no, totally. But, like, I just mean, like, even the logistics of, like, the strength to be that safe with Hogan.
Yeah, that's a good point, because Hogan's a big
is
lad.
immense. Like, yeah, he's a giant. So, like,
It is impressive. But anyway, sorry, I flew off on one. But I just wanted to list all the different elements that made me think it was good. And I'd give it a 3.5. And I thought, is this high? And I was like, no, I'm enjoying this, especially in comparison to some of the stuff we've seen before. I'd give Taker himself a 3, slightly less than the match itself, because the match was just...
Because Hogan carried him, right?
Some of its parts.
That's interesting. So I was thinking kind of the match itself. I wasn't as hot on it as you guys were. I think kind of like for me, maybe it was a 2.75. It was a good match, a nice long length match for the Taker to really kind of get his teeth sink into. But at the same time, like I'm looking forward to him wrestling more kind of creative wrestlers.
Totally.
Yeah.
For Taker himself, I'd have to agree. It's a 3 out of 5 performance. I think kind of it's nice to see him bringing this all kind of together at this point in time. Like you can start to see the Undertaker that we all know in this match itself. But so yeah, that gives the match itself an overall 3.0625 out of 5. And Taker himself, 2.875 out of 5.
He got pile drived right into the steel chair.
Wait a minute. 1,
Come on.
2,
Get out.
we got a new world champion.
That's ridiculous.
Federation champion.
What a miscarriage of justice.
I told you so. If I was a fan, I'm going to say this, man. And new World Wrestling Federation champion, The Undertaker.
This is horrendous. 3 guys it took. It took The Undertaker, Paul Bearer, and Ric Flair to beat Hulk Hogan.
Hulkamania is dead. It is dead. Long live The Undertaker.
And so we move on to match 5 versus Hulk Hogan once again at This Tuesday in Texas, 1991. 1 week later, following the controversial finish of Survivor Series 1991, WWF President Jack Tunney,
Classic.
let that sink in for a second, announced a rematch for WWF's first and last This Tuesday in Texas pay-per-view, where Mr. Tunney himself would be ringside to ensure no further outside interference. We'll see how that works out. Taking place from the Freeman Coliseum in San Antonio, Texas, this would be The Undertaker's first title defense.
First title defense by The Undertaker. Brain, this could be one of the shortest lived reigns in the history of the World Wrestling Federation by one individual.
Did you see that? His eyes just rolled back into his head. No pupils, just all white. You're not going to hurt this man, Monsoon. This man's a monster.
Brett, where do you stand on Undertaker versus Hulk Hogan at This Tuesday in Texas in 1991?
Oh, well. Unlike the last match, I think this one mostly suffered for the... I don't know how long it went on for, like, claw that Taker did. Like, the longest rest hold I can ever remember.
Just lots of them as well, wasn't there? I felt like...
Yeah, and it's just like... Well, there was lots of, like... And I know that's part of Taker's thing, like the choke and, like, you know, the camera getting his eyes all, like, bugging out, which is great. But, like, yeah, there was lots of choking, and there was, like, he just, like, forever with his hand on his forehead.
Yeah.
And then he sort of, like, it moved to the jaw because, I don't know, he got a bit bored.
Do you know what I'm really looking forward to
just
with
like,
these
I hated this.
Undertaker matches is sooner or later he's going to have to choke slam someone.
Oh, yeah.
And that's going to be amazing because every single time he went for it, the choke, I was thinking, is this going to be his first choke slam?
Never quite
it
came.
It wasn't. It was just a series of boring choke holds.
It was. Was it this match that had the botch of the falling out off the rope?
Yeah. Oh, God, yeah.
But, like,
Fell over.
and I'll give them, because I don't actually think it was Taker's fault per se, but, like, I don't know, the ropes looked like
Loose.
they were really giving.
Really slack.
And, like, Hogan was, like, really, like, leaning all the way into it when he ran. And so I think when Taker went to bounce off the rope straight after him, they just weren't there.
Yeah, absolutely.
He just, like, took a tumble. But, you know, he styled it out by just, like, laying prone. You know, don't get up after that. Just be like, oh, I've hurt myself.
It was weird because the camera angle they had initially was like he was running the ropes, and you're like, what? Why hasn't he come back for a split second? Like, why hasn't he bounced back? And then you see him on the floor.
I thought surely Paul Bearer didn't trip up his own guy.
An early heel turn from Paul Bearer.
Yeah.
That'd have been great.
There was a couple of weird bits in this match, though, with moves didn't really land and just felt a bit botchy and sketchy in places, I thought.
What did we think of just the idea of this Tuesday in Texas in general? Because I must say, when you sent this around as the next match we were going to be having to watch, I was thinking, I thought we were only doing pay-per-views. Or what is this? This sounds like some sort of house show. And then it was interesting to see that this was their attempt at trying to get some sort of Tuesday show going or something. And it never took off, obviously. But it's a weird one, isn't it? To have what they call a pay-per-view. It was an hour and a half show. And this was the main event, but to have it on a Tuesday in Texas.
Weird.
The whole thing is very odd to me. Like, kind of, even the kind of timing of it, like, kind of putting it between Survivor Series and the Royal Rumble. Like, I don't know what you're looking to achieve from that as a pay-per-view, because that's...
You don't need anything, do you?
Not really. Like, that's kind of your golden time. If anything, you want something kind of... Like, back then, they really wanted something between WrestleMania and SummerSlam that would have filled that gap, but...
I say you don't need anything. What's always the last pay-per-view of the year that we always have to review? We've already, we do the quiz. And...
Clash of Champions.
Yep.
Is it?
Yeah, that's
the last one of the
I'm
year.
not sure.
It's usually.
I'm not sure.
I think
We'd have
it's.
to look into it.
No, weirdly, last year the last one, December 15th, was TLC.
Oh, that's pretty decent, actually.
Yeah, but the year before that it was TLC. Oh, I thought it was something crap for some reason. It was Clash of Champions all the way back in 2017. You're so 2017, Sam.
I'm so 1991 at the moment.
You are. Well done. Bring it back.
Yeah, the match itself was kind of like a botchy version of the previous match.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Complete...
because there was lots of reoccurrences as well, wasn't there? Like,
There were. This one had a really nice, like, hot start, I thought. I like the fact that Taker and Bearer immediately started to try and attack Hulk Hogan. And then Hogan bashed their heads together, Bret's old favourite.
Yeah, actually, that's true.
And then from the off, that meant that the crowd was so hot. I mean, we should mention that again for all of these early matches. The crowd are so into it. And also they look great. And the fact that there's less room in between the edge of the ring and the barricades means it feels like they're much closer in, and it just really adds to the atmosphere. But I thought, yeah, really hot start, and it got me really into it early. And yeah, I enjoyed this equally as much as the other one.
I thought it got really good when Flair came out. I thought up until then, I was kind of flagging, but as soon as Flair came out, it kind of got really cool and interesting. And obviously got took that bump with Tunney, sort of landed on top of him.
Flair was great.
And then poor old Taker takes a chair to the face from the turnbuckle, and then Paul Bearer brains him with his own urn, takes a big boot, and then loses the title.
It was a poor title reign.
It was less than a week, wasn't it?
5 or 6 days. Yeah, not his finest moment.
But quite nice that we got to experience the whole thing. You know, rather than us going from say WrestleMania one year to WrestleMania the next year, not really remembering what happened, we got to see him win the title, then lose the title.
Entire story summed up very quickly. This is why we don't need 600-day title reigns. I actually kind of enjoyed this in a weird way. Like, kind of, I know it's very similar to the Survivor Series match, but I think for me personally, the ending of Hulk Hogan literally throwing a dead person's ashes into someo's eyes.
Yeah, that was cool.
That was cool.
That's different.
Oh shit, was it literally a dead person?
Presumably.
I thought maybe he had some intel. Guys, that wasn't just some, all the scrapings you get from the bottom of a toaster. That was genuinely Paul Bearer's deceased mother.
I believe kayfabe.
Okay. I wonder who was supposed to be in there. Do we have any idea?
I think okay, so my takeaway from these first 4 or 5 matches has been, I believe it's meant to be the Undertaker in there.
Whoa.
As a kid, I always thought it was like the Undertaker's soul or something like that was in the...
Brett, what do you think?
Oh, I don't know. I'd probably say, like, a demon or a devil or something, no? Or the devil, I don't know. Like,
are you calling an early Kane appearance?
Yeah, early Kane. Well, like for someone like the Undertaker, and to be powered by something, I just assume, be the big evil that is the devil.
How about this? For the next episode, John Sorry, I've picked you, John.
Oh,
You have to
Homework.
You have to do some homework and find out that, like, the history of the urn, who's in the urn, and any great stories about the urn.
Oh, mate, you're going to go through some comics there.
Really?
There are Undertaker comics about.
Yeah,
his
you have to read all of
backstory.
them. You have to get them on eBay. No, maybe just if you can find out, what the history of the urn, who's supposed to be in there, if anyone, that would be great. I was going to try and Google
right,
it.
leave
now,
it. No, it's
but-
all right. Leave it with me, guys. I will look after it.
Amazing.
Yes,
Cool.
and if you don't do it, we'll get a hardest part of the ring urn. You better watch your back.
Oh, hang on. For our next episode or next Undertaking episode?
Undertaking episode.
Okay,
Undertaking.
good.
Might be the same thing.
We didn't even mention the post Survivor Series promo, and then which kicked off this Tuesday in Texas with like Mean Gene surrounded by
You're absolutely right.
smoke in the catacombs
Oh,
of, a,
yes.
of a sports arena.
Catacombs of the Freeman Coliseum.
That's a
Yeah.
good thing you brought that up, Brett, because we have a clip of that which we can play right now.
Oh, Mr. Okerlund, nothing is immortal, not even Hulkamania. Hulkamania died right here this very evening. Oh, yes. And normally, Mr. Okerlund, when something dies, you hold the services almost immediately. But not in the case of Hulkamania. We'll hold him over, yes, right in the embalming room of my funeral parlor. And sometime between now and Tuesday, we will eviscerate him. Oh, yes, eviscerate his bluing flesh. Oh, that stench.
It was so good. I loved it. I loved all the smoke and the cool lighting and the lifting the old coffin up and the camera being in there. I was loving all that creativity.
This is such a good point, actually. I love the whole idea of Undertaker literally putting to rest Hulkamania. I'm not sure how well that worked out for him.
I do wish Undertaker would just speak up a little bit in these promos. Or they need to get the mic a bit closer to his face, because it's always like you hear what Paul Bearer's saying, and then it goes to Taker, and I found myself like leaning in to the TV, just being like, "What are you saying?"
We warned you what was in store for Hulk Hogan, and now, Mr. Okerlund, let me enlighten you what we have in store for Hulkamania. Look into the coffin. You look, Mr. Okerlund. Look. Hulkamania. It died at Survivor Series. Now, the only thing left is this Tuesday. The burial.
Yeah, he was quite quiet. Yeah, he was quite softly spoken, but in a
I think that's
rough
his
way.
character, though, isn't he? He's trying to, like, everyone else is shouting in all these promos.
But this is an audiovisual product. Oops, sorry.
And then he's like bringing you in. You know,
Yeah.
he's making you come in. He's like, you know, you got to really listen to hear his words rather than like, you know, put your ear defenders on and then listen to the rest of them.
I am with you on this 100%.
The great thing about what just happened there is I was going to say this is an audiovisual product and complain about it and the fact that they need to be professional and get it right, maybe up the levels. But as I said, audiovisual, I elbowed my mic stand. And I imagine you might not have heard it, but it'll probably come up in the edit. Anyway, the match.
So yes, I mean the match itself. I don't know how much we can particularly talk about it beyond there was a lot of rest holds.
Yeah, I think I agree with John that it was when Flair turned up, that was great because you had all the drama, as he said, of the chair being set up and then Hulk pushing Taker into it, and then all the Ashes stuff, and you know Hulk reclaiming the title, lots of celebrations, and the weird thing at the end, of course, is that Jack Tunney did get knocked over, but then Jack Tunney was up leaning against the apron as the Ashes went into Undertaker's eyes, and there was some speculation from the commentary team sort of saying Tunney saw it, he's going to have to restart the match.
Well, you say that because
I wondered what happened after this.
With The Undertaker eating his first pinfall defeat in, once again, controversial circumstances, Jack Tunney would go on to strip Hogan of the title.
Yes.
And he announced that the winner of the 1992 Royal Rumble would become the champion. But that's a story for the next Undertaking.
Oh,
You tease.
exciting.
Do.
We're going to circle back to this Tuesday in Texas, though, because we haven't rated this match yet.
Oh, rubbish. Okay.
And so, John, where do you stand on this Tuesday in Texas versus Hulk Hogan?
Oh, I'm going to say the match 1.5, and also Taker's performance, because he did botch quite a few times, 1.5.
Wow. That's probably a fair shout.
Wow.
Adam?
I'm not going to be influenced. I'm going to go with what I've written down. I wrote 3.5 for the match.
Ooh.
I just really enjoyed it. Again, I think I was just enjoying seeing the crowd, the wrestlers. Lots happened.
This is my hosting podcast. You're welcome to have any opinion you want.
Yeah, I mean, and again,
tension.
I looked on Grapple, and luckily, I think about 20 people had rated this match, and the average rating was 2. So I thought, what's going on? But this happens sometimes, doesn't it? Sometimes it's the mood you're in.
Yeah,
sometimes
that's cool. What did you rate Taker as?
I would give Taker probably a 3 again. Because again, it was just everybody involved in the match that made it
Do you know what? I'm going to probably say I actually enjoyed this more than the Survivor Series match. I'm going to say that was a 3 out of 5 for me.
What?
Taker himself, I would say, was probably a 3 as well.
Okay,
Brett, you want to destroy the rating?
Yeah, no, I'm gonna agree with John. I'm going 1.5.
Yes, Brett.
Across
Both
the board.
the match and Taker's, there were botches.
It's true. I mean, the botches are.
Yes,
that's my take on that. And so the match itself, 2.375 out of 5. Undertaker's performance, 2.25. This is weakest to date, actually.
it's so weird with ratings because if you're a purist, then you should rate it as a wrestling match. But you know, with those botches, it should score low. But it's just everything: the nostalgia, the crowd, everything.
It's the rest holds as well. They just
fair enough. Anyway, I enjoyed it.
Turning up, ashes spewing Armageddon right into the chaser of The Undertaker. Scoop from behind. No, he got it. That's not right. That's not right. It's all over.
And so we reach the end of the 5 matches of The Undertaker so far. Next time, Royal Rumble 92 and WrestleMania 8, where he will be wrestling Jake the Snake Roberts.
Oh, excited for
It's going
that.
to be a good one next time. That's going to be a cracker.
Yeah. Rumble 92. There's going to be so many great people in that. Oh, can't wait. Or it'll be like the Rumble 90 that we saw, and it'll just be Greg Valentine and
Greg the Hammer.
a nasty boy.
And so I need to hand back to you, Adam.
Thanks, Sam. Okay, well, that is the end of The Undertaking Volume 2. Well done to Sam again. Thank you for all the research. It's so great. I feel like we're learning a lot already from this, and which is pretty mad considering how much we already know about wrestling. Yeah. Next week, we're going to have a week off because we have done a fair few in a row, but we'll be back the week after that. And I'm excited about this because it's NXT in your house, or NXT TakeOver in your house, which should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I need next week off just to catch up on NXT.
Oh, there's been some interesting stuff recently. Got Thatcher Riddle.
Yeah, I heard about that. That match sounds...
Death Pit.
Yeah,
I need to see that.
Yeah.
I've loved Thatcher in NXT so far.
Yeah, me too.
We're digressing.
Away from WWE, have you guys seen any interesting debuts in AEW?
Yeah.
What?
I'm up to date.
No?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm
No?
not.
Oh.
Oh,
no.
the FTR.
My boys. My boys are there.
Oh,
Yes.
I have,
Huge for the draft.
Ooh. Not going to Impact. That's disappointing.
Brett, we missed you big time last week because Sam had to take over and tell people how to get in touch, and he did it perfectly. And we missed you botching
And it's
it.
not as much fun, is it? And when someone totally botch it, I'll give myself a 1 out of 5.
I'd give you one too.
Hey.
Whoa, easy.
Oh, I'm blushing.
We've thrown him.
Right. You can send... I don't need throwing. You can send your emails to hardestpartofthering@gmail.com. You can get us on Instagram, Facebook and Twitter. We are at hardestpartpod.
Hooray. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you, Sam, for the research. I keep saying that.
Oh, you do. It's a little bit awkward.
It is, isn't it?
I'm not really
So
researching.
relieved.
I'm just making it all up.
To not
God.
do it.
Imagine. But yeah, thanks, Sam, and goodbye, and see you in 2 weeks.
See you in 2 weeks, buddy.
And I'll speak to you in 2 weeks, John.
Yeah, see you in 2 weeks.
And speak to you in 2 weeks, Brett.
Bye.
Actually, do you know what? Maybe we could speak to each other in between that.
I mean, we probably will.
That'd be nice, wouldn't it? And don't forget that earn research, John.
Earn research. I've made a note of it. It's on my hand. I won't shower until I do the research.
Perfect. Oh, by the way, quick pant update. Are you wearing pants again?
I'm not wearing
Boxers?
pants. No boxers today.
I've got an update on this, actually. I've decided to follow suit. I'm also not wearing pants now.
God.
Oh my dear.
It's so hot at the moment, guys. You've got to wear underwear.
I miss 1 week, and what happens?
Sam just
Do you know what?
removes his
Don't
underwear.
don't knock it till you try it. Because I didn't believe it was a good move, but it's been very liberating.
It just seems like such a lot of effort these days to put on some boxers. These are tough times, Brett.
It's a new world, Brett. New world order.
I love this. Trying to persuade
dear
you,
me.
Brett. You're obviously the next
ain't
target.
happening.
The end of next podcast, Brett will be like, guys, I've joined you.
I've done it now.
Oh, God. What an end. Okay.
While we're talking.
We'll tune in 2 weeks' time for the NXT in Your House review to find out whether or not I have succumbed and removed my boxer shorts as well. And if you only hear the end of this podcast, then I'm so sorry. And what a weird way to listen to podcasts.
Yeah, that's it.
Thank you. Goodbye. That was the hardest part of the ring.
That is the hardest